Hey guys, back here with another video, and for this one, I'm finishing inking this, and I'm gonna offer some advice on how to clean up stuff when you're inking it. So sometimes, um, after you're done inking, it's very important to know that certain spots of ink can be worn down when you erase them with a regular eraser, right? And so sometimes you'll have to use a kneaded eraser. So there are these softer ones, right? And they don't scrape off areas of ink. Like when you ink with a brush, right? So let me show the brush I use, where to go. So the brush I use is right here. And so brushes aren't as sharp as the G pen, right? The G pen will dig into the paper and it will. So this isn't the pen I used for this one, but it's another nib pen. But they scratch the paper and they allow the ink to seep into it more. And so it's hard to wear those lines out, right? If you're erasing over them. But I usually don't dig into the paper that much, so I always worry if the lines will wear out if I erase them with one of these erasers. So I'll use it to erase within the lines. I'll try not to go over my inks with it. Not too hard. Don't rub too hard. Right? If you're worrying about the ink being worn out when you erase over it, I advise use these erasers. It just lifts the lead up. It doesn't wear out the ink off the paper. See, I'd like to demonstrate it. Maybe I'll use this. So here you got some dry ink, right? If you erase too hard sometimes, the ink will come out. But see, this ink is actually pretty good, so it doesn't, and this paper is pretty smooth, so it dries evenly, and so it doesn't wear it out as much. But let's see. If you erase too hard, see, some of it begins to fade out a little bit. Maybe that was there before, I don't know. Maybe you could rewind the video and compare and contrast. But I'm beginning to see some wear here when I erased over it. It's not picking up on the camera. But yeah, sometimes, especially because this is very thick ink, so it won't wear out, but sometimes you'll have thinner ink that's laid on and doesn't, you know, it's not a good shape sometimes, and it'll just wear out when you erase over it. So I advise being careful when you erase and try not to over erase or over wear the paper or ink that you're using. So here I'm just lightly going over all of it. All right, it's beginning to look cleaner now. Okay. And now over here, I'm gonna try to finish up this sword. And so what I usually do when I'm inking stuff like this is I'll just go in blocking in the shadows really big, really thick ink, and then just leave the detailing for later. So more technical stuff, I like to use the pen, right? When you're using certain tools, they do a better job at certain things than other tools. Like if I want more organic shapes, I'll use the brush or the dip pen, right? These two tools here, because they're more flexible, and sometimes they make good mistakes. But with a pen, the mistakes done with a pen, they look very sloppy. So I don't advise using pen for a lot of organic shapes if you're trying to get work done quickly. Of course, you could work with one tool the whole time, but if you're looking for speed, you have to understand your tools well and use them at the right time. So here I'm just going in and adding all those, what are they called, bandages? I think they're bandages, maybe straps around the handle of the sword. I don't know what they're called. I see when you zoom out, it looks better. So here it's just, I'm gonna go in and do the whole thing. So just for saving time, I'll do the bottom part. So kind of blend it in there. Part where the handle of the sword goes into the hilt. I want to put more shadow. Some shadow here at the handle casts. Fade it out a little bit. And then here, like, kind of fade out these shadows too. I remember I was watching a video of Jim Lee inking stuff in. He was drawing Batman, and he was getting ready to start using ink on it. And he was using a method kind of like this. Of course, he did it way better. But when you're working fast, you don't have the time to ink in everything perfectly. You're not a printer, so do things in steps, right? Do the whole picture in thick inks, thick shadows, and then have a stage where you do the smaller line work, and then you just start to blend them in the last step. That's what I usually do if I'm doing more technical stuff. For this piece, since there was no background, I had to make sure that the line work on the characters was really good. So I had to be more aware of the kind of lines I'm putting down on the paper. Because sometimes when you draw a background, the background takes away from the characters. So sometimes not a lot of the mistakes are seen. So yeah, here we go. See, it's beginning to pull itself together and it's beginning to look pretty good. And yeah, like, I'll show you another part of it. So let's go up here, boom. This guy's sword. So that's the same method I used here, but because this sword, it's less ribbons and it's more like coils of metal. It's like when you look at a longsword, it's like coils around the handle. So it was more technical. For this one, I made it messier because I want to give it that more of a, it's just leather straps maybe around a thing that are tied around and they overlap each other. So it's a messier look to it. So it's kind of on purpose. Definitely didn't do any mistakes here and then just tried to cover it up, making it look different on purpose. But yeah, overall I'm happy with how the mask turned out. But yeah, inking tips that I don't really see often on the internet is how to clean it up, and cleaning it up is a difficult part because you could end up messing the marks you've worked hard to put down. So make sure that you use the right eraser, right, for the right parts, and make sure you don't overwork the erasing. Make sure that it's not too rough. You don't want to ruin your paper. You don't want to ruin your inks that you worked so hard to do. So always know what your tools do. Always know what kind of tools you need and what order you should do your job in, because it'll save you so much time and effort and you'll do less mistakes. All right, if you guys got any questions, leave it below. Thanks for watching and have a great day.